and 27. Is that correct?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
All right. So, I'll just start my database. Yes. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 8th chapter, 2 verses 26 and 27. This is one of my favorite chapters, also favorite prayers. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak again on them. Text 26. I'll chant the Sanskrit words just once, and then I'll go in the English translation. Janmaishwarya Shuta Shridhiredamana Madapuman Naivarhatya Vidhatum Vai Tvamakinchana Gocharam. Queen Kunti is praying. Translation. My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. Purport. Being materially advanced means taking birth in an aristocratic family and possessing great wealth, and education, and attractive personal beauty. All materialistic men are mad after possessing all these material opulences, and this is known as the advancement of material civilization. But the result is that by possessing all these material assets, one becomes artificially puffed up, intoxicated by such temporary possessions. Consequently, such material puffed up persons are incapable of uttering the holy name of the Lord by addressing him feelingly, O Govinda, O Krishna. It is said in the Shastras that by once uttering the holy name of the Lord, the sinner gets rid of a quantity of sins that he is unable to commit. Such is the power of uttering the holy name of the Lord. There is not the least exaggeration in this statement. Actually, the Lord's holy name has such powerful potency. But there is a quality to such utterances also. It depends on the quality of feeling. A helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. A materially puffed up person may utter the holy name of the Lord occasionally, but he is incapable of uttering the name in quality. Therefore, the four principles of material advancement, namely high parentage, good wealth, high education, and attractive beauty, are, so to speak, disqualifications for progress on the path of spiritual advancement. The material covering of the pure spirit soul is an external feature, as much as fever is an external feature of the unhealthy body. The general process is to decrease the degree of the fever and not to aggravate it by maltreatment. Sometimes it is seen that spiritually advanced persons become materially impoverished. This is no discouragement. On the other hand, such impoverishment is a good sign as much as the falling of temperature is a good sign. The principle of life should be to decrease the degree of material intoxication, which leads one to be more and more illusioned about the aim of life. Grossly illusioned persons are quite unfit for entrance into the kingdom of God. So, this is one of the often quoted verses by Srila Prabhupada. He has used this in many of his classes. And what we shall be doing is, this is a small technique I'm using to understand Srila Prabhupada's purports. And I'm just sharing that with you today. Like, for example, this word speaks in terms of don't go for that qualification. Don't try to get that extra dollars, those extra dollars. Don't try to move into a very fashionable, expensive neighborhood. Don't try for that new car, new job, and you will progress in bhakti. So rather than trying to say that how this is not true, or this is needed for my career, for my bhakti today, I will try to be loyal to the purport. At the same time, maybe in our feedback session, we will see how sometimes we may have to go for a higher academic career option, a better job, more money, and we'll see whether there is anything right with that. All right. So this is like a mental exercise. We will try to see what is the truth in what Kunti is praying here. Um, because sometimes devotees read the purport like somebody who is aspiring to be a devotee and wants to have somebody in India wants to get into IIT, IIMs, All India Institute of Medical Science. Somebody is planning for a PhD in America, and they are introduced to Krishna consciousness. And if they see this and say that, oh wow, these people are saying this whole thing is Maya, this whole thing is illusion. I won't be able to go back to God if I just aim for just one of these four. And later, you come to the point of understanding that Srila Prabhupada actually encouraged someone to take his PhD, or Srila Prabhupada encouraged Ambarish Ford to make more millions. So you may say, how is that? So I hope I'm making it clear. While discussing the purport, I will try to be completely loyal. Well, loyal is not a good word in that sense. I will try to follow the meaning of the purport only. Okay. And in our feedback session, question answer session, we'll see how that could be a way out or how to understand it differently. All right. So why is Kunti saying that Krishna can be approached only by those who are materially exhausted? Because in a Krishna unconscious situation, this is very much the truth and the way of life. Janma means higher birth. High is very relative. In a particular society, some community, some caste, some group could be considered of a very high birth. But there is competition, and we should know that there is competition. People change their names so that their names can be like they can uh, suit that particular time. If you have read about this a little bit, many of the immigrants who came to America, they came from some really impoverished countries of Europe, some very difficult places of Europe, and they decided to Americanize their name so that they sound really American, simple. Uh, like Donald Trump's grandfather, their name actually was Drumph or Drumpf, Drumpf. But that was very Germanic. He didn't like that. So Trump, well, it looks like a very naturalized American name. So for whatever reason, this may not exactly fit the bill here. But what I'm saying is there are so many relative things, and what you may perceive as something very high is very relative. But there is a desire. The main point is there is a desire for trying to be someone you are not. And this is the feeling which I get when you read these four things. You want to improve yourself with respectable parentage. Now, we can't do anything about our parents. We were just given them and that's it. There is no choice of changing them. But opulence, oh, your self-help section in your bookstore is chock full of books about how I made my million and Perhaps you may have heard about this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's about, you may say, what am I doing in that section? I was attracted towards one news item which says that this fellow who is teaching people how to make millions actually had so many businesses going into bankruptcy. So even if you know how to make millions, sometimes you also have to experience this kind of, as they say, upheavals of the market. High education, certainly, and bodily beauty. Asia, almost all of us are Asians here, almost all. So we have been accused of not being happy with our brown skin or whatever. And in India, there is especially a cream called Fair and Lovely. Again, you might be saying, why are we discussing these things in Srimad Bhagavatam class? But the fact is that this was, with the exception of, uh, I mean, no, not without exception. Almost everybody was thinking that, well, people who have brown, black, or yellow skins feel that they are not attractive and they should do something to make it fair. Uh, Again, the same thing. We are not happy with what we have, and we want to pursue these four things in the hope of becoming happy. So please try to understand what Kunti is criticizing is not essentially just the acquisition of these four things, but calling them the goal of your life. Thinking that this is the goal of life, this is the be all and end all of my life. And animals don't have this kind of a feeling. A black cat doesn't want to become a fair cat, or a black mouse doesn't want to become a fair mouse. They don't have the developed faculties. So Prabhupada begins the purport by saying, these four sum up what is material advancement. That's all. And that is the danger. Thinking that these four gives you, like this is the summit, this is the Mount Everest of life. That's the mistake. How does it, why I call it a mistake? That possessing these assets, one becomes artificially puffed up. So, see, Prabhupada is very clear. First mistake, thinking that these four are the goal of life. Second mistake, if you get them, you get puffed up. And they are incapable of uttering the holy name of the Lord by addressing him feelingly, oh Govinda, oh Krishna. Now, the benefit given in the Shastras is that by once chanting Krishna's name feelingly, you can put a full stop to all material miseries of life. At least you can make a beginning. So her emphasis is not on being advanced with education or with any material skill sets. Like we have Ambarish, Prithu, Pandavas, supremely opulent kings. Arjuna always trying to improve his skills. Bhima always trying to improve his skills. Chanakya Pandit in fact says that while pursuing material satisfaction, you should have the feeling that I may die anytime. And that's true. We also all say that. So what's the point in getting focused on that? But while pursuing spiritual knowledge, you have to wear a different hat. It's like two hats. The second hat is of, I am going to live eternally. So this knowledge will help me anytime. So obviously we may have a little bit of a difference of opinion here, but our Vedic culture would have a different way of looking at things and thinking about things. what is the first thing which comes to your mind when you read about ancient Indian culture? In fact, all these four things are turned upside down. We talk of this is a book written by one professor who met Srila Prabhupada, the wonder that was India, that India was a land of great material assets. There were people who were of respectable parentage. There were seats of high education. Now, I don't know whether previously people were beautiful or not, but especially if you go to the old temples and see the sculptures, you don't find ugly people there, right? You find very beautiful. So this is the contrast. And as I said, I'm trying to be loyal to this purport. One last point is, sometimes it is seen, Prabhupada is saying here, that spiritually advanced people become materially impoverished. And my God, Prabhupada went through that. Prabhupada told his disciples how it was like a triangle. For those of you who know a little bit of Indian geography, Prayag is the place, the confluence of the Ganga, Jamuna, and Saraswati, where Prabhupada had his pharmacy. Jhansi is a place in Madhya Pradesh, central India, and Kolkata is Prabhupada's hometown. So he had done his business, married off his daughters, sons also were married. And famously, we know the story, Prabhupada is telling his wife that you choose between tea or me. And she says, she thought he's joking, and she said, okay, I choose tea. And Prabhupada was very resolutely determined that she's not cooperating with, at least at this time of her life, she should be focusing on spiritual life, but she was not interested. So he thought, at least I will look into my business just so much that it will contribute something to my daily expenditure or monthly maintenance. And Jhansi is the place where somebody had invited him and he was prospecting about a small building, whether that building can be used for his classes. The domestic situation deteriorated to such a level that Prabhupada said, one day as he left, he said, I'm not coming back. And that's it. And the place, that small building, some very influential lady said that we need it for some ladies sewing and embroidery and cooking classes. And Prabhupada was trying to teach some philosophy, was trying to emphasize the point that Bhagavad Gita knowledge is more important than just ladies' classes. But there was political pressure. So that building was not being made available to him. And then the last straw fell on the camel's back. A telegram arrived from Prayag that your creditors came and they took away whatever assets they could. And finally, the servants ran away with the petty cash. So there is not a penny in your account. And Prabhupada said, that time I was really, really devastated. What to do now? I am doing everything for Krishna, and why is he not reciprocating? So when Prabhupada writes about experiencing abject poverty, he's not giving a theoretical explanation. He actually experienced that. To think of it, he also had a similar experience while in New York. His typewriter was stolen. The boy he was living with just went on drugs one day and started screaming and shouting at him. And Prabhupada had one small suitcase with his personal belongings. He just picked it up and was walking on the streets of Manhattan, Lower East Side, not knowing where to go, east or west. And he said, all of this I've come here to end like this. And somehow he met our Mukunda Maharaj, Michael Grant at that time, and he saw the tone of what Swamiji was saying. And he said, don't worry. Right now, you come to my flat. There is a room there. You stay there. I'll get all your other belongings. I'll immediately contact some of our other friends and we'll see what can be done. The next morning's Village Voice paper, they see such accommodations available, and what do they locate? 26 Second Avenue. And they talk to the landowner. They decide that, very quickly we had to decide. 3-4 devotees came together and said, okay, we will pitch up for the rent. Swamiji, don't worry, we have some small place for you to give classes. And back door, there is a small apartment you can use. And Prabhupada never ever failed in showing his gratitude to all those who helped him at that time. Now we can argue that Prabhupada is coming from Krishna, from Vaikuntha. Why does he need money? So here also, high parentage, education. Is Krishna envious of you because of your IIT grades or your job right now or your 7-figure salary or your whatever? Sometimes people have a feeling that God is envious that I have all these things. But we should understand that these opulences at a particular time could be like a bodily fever. An old Bengali story will round up our discussion on the first purport. There is a landlord, he has a wife, and they also have a maid servant. And somehow both of them fall sick. So the allopathic doctor comes and takes the temperature. And he says that, oh, your wife has 101, but the maid servant has 103. And his wife starts shouting, she's a maid servant. How can she have higher temperature than me? And Prabhupada said, look at the folly. As if this is a game. Higher the temperature, you win. Is it like a high jump or something? This is a disease. So we will now move to our next verse. What should we do? Should we have a brief feedback now, or both discussions and then feedback? Whatever you feel comfortable with, I'm okay.
Anything is okay, Prabhuji, whatever you feel.
All right. So any comments or questions about this before we move on to the next verse?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. You gave a very amazing explanation that these four things are in themselves not bad or evil, but to see these four things as the goal of life. And secondly, you gave these twofold mistake that we make. Secondly, after getting them, we become puffed up with them. So that is what Srila Prabhupada is speaking against here. Thank you, Prabhu. That was a very enlightening.
Thank you.
Analysis.
So it's okay if we move on to the next one. You can have questions about the first words after we finish the second verse also. No issues with that. So we move on to 1827. Namo akinchana vittaya nivritta guna vittaye atma ramaya shantaya kaivalya pataye namaha. Translation: my obeisances are unto you, who are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore You are the most gentle and are the master of the monists. Srila Prabhupada's purport, quite a long, exhaustive purport. A living being is finished as soon as there is nothing to possess. Therefore, a living being cannot be, in the real sense of the term, a renouncer. A living being renounces something for gaining something more valuable. A student sacrifices his childish proclivities to gain better education. His servant gives up his job for a better job. Similarly, a devotee renounces the material world not for nothing, but for something tangible in spiritual value. Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami and others gave up their worldly pomp and prosperity for the sake of the service of the Lord. They were big men in the worldly sense. The Goswamis were ministers in the government service of Bengal, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami was the son of a big zamindar of his time. But they left everything to gain something superior to what they previously possessed. The devotees are generally without material prosperity, but they have a very secret treasure house in the lotus feet of the Lord. There's a nice story about Srila Sanatana Goswami. He had a touchstone with him, and this stone was left in a pile of refuse. A needy man took it, but later on wondered why the valuable stone was kept in such a neglected place. He therefore asked him for the most valuable thing, and then he was given the holy name of the Lord. Akinchana means one who has nothing to give materially. A factual devotee or Mahatma does not give anything material to anyone because he has already left all material assets. He can, however, deliver the supreme asset, namely the personality of Godhead, because he is the only property of a factual devotee. The touchstone of Sanatana Goswami, which was thrown in the rubbish, was not the property of the Goswami. Otherwise, it would not have been kept in such a place. This specific example is given for the neophyte devotees, just to convince them that material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. Unless one is able to see everything as spiritual in relation to the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. A spiritual master like Srila Sanatana Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set this example for us only because we have no such spiritual vision. Advancement of material vision or material civilization is a great stumbling block for spiritual advancement. Such material advancement entangles the living being in the bondage of a material body, followed by all sorts of material miseries. Such material advancement is called anartha, or things not wanted. Actually, this is so. In the present context of material advancement, one uses lipstick at a cost of 50 cents. And there are so many unwanted things which are all products of the material conception of life. By the way, this lipstick comes from his experience in New York. And he wrote the first purport, first canto purports while in India. So then later when Haigiri Prabhu and others helped him in editing it, and this sense must have been added after that. Otherwise, Prabhupada also was very angry that some 100 grams of black pepper and turmeric powder also were 20 times expensive as he would have them in India. in Maharashtra, we have a joke that Ravana's Lanka, the Lanka of Ravana was made of all gold. Gold, gold, gold everywhere. Suvarna Lanka, golden Lanka. But for a haircut, you have to give 2 gold bricks. So ultimately, it kind of levels out, isn't it? You have something in India which is cheap, but you may say, it is India. But if you go to the Middle East, Australia, Japan, America, Canada, and you find something super, good, similar quality, but also super expensive. So Prabhupada's lipstick at the cost of 50 cents. By diverting attention to so many unwanted things, human energy is spoiled without achievement of spiritual realization, the prime necessity of human life. The attempt to reach the moon is another example of spoiling energy, because even if the moon is reached, the problems of life will not be solved. The devotees of the Lord are called akinchanas because they have practically no material assets. Such material assets are all products of the three modes of material nature. They foil spiritual energy, and thus the less we possess such products of material nature, the more we have a good chance for spiritual progress. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no direct connection with material activities. All his acts and deeds, which are exhibited even in this material world, are spiritual and unaffected by the modes of material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that all his acts, even his appearance and disappearance in and out of the material world, are transcendental. And one who knows this perfectly shall not take his birth again in this material world, but will go back to Godhead. The material disease is due to hankering after and lording it over material nature. This hankering is due to an interaction of the three modes of nature, and neither the Lord nor the devotees have attachment for such false enjoyment. Therefore, the Lord and the devotees are called Nivritta Guna Vritti. The perfect Nivritta Guna Vritti is the Supreme Lord because he never becomes attracted by the modes of material nature, whereas the living beings have such a tendency. Some of them are entrapped by the illusory attraction of material nature. Because the Lord is the property of the devotees and the devotees are the property of the Lord reciprocally, the devotees are certainly transcendental to the modes of material nature. That is a natural conclusion. Such unalloyed devotees are distinct from the mixed devotees who approach the Lord for mitigation of miseries and poverty, or because of inquisitiveness and speculation. So these are the four types of devotees Krishna will mention later. Or Krishna mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita rather, I stand corrected. So somebody who is miserable, poverty-stricken, inquisitiveness, and speculation. So these are the four kinds of devotees who approach Krishna. Here, because of Queen Kunti's feelings, Prabhupada is giving a little bit of a higher understanding that for others, the Lord has nothing to reciprocate, and therefore he's called Atmaram, self-satisfied. Self-satisfied as he is the master of all monists who seek to merge into the existence of the Lord. Such monists merge within the personal effulgence of the Lord called the Brahmajyoti. But the devotees enter into the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which are never to be misunderstood as material. So, roughly the same mood, understanding of how do we progress in spiritual life. And okay, I will just round it up with this one thing. Say I am sick. Will this statement that I'm not this material body, so I don't need medicine, will it help? Not actually. I am not this material body, therefore I don't need to give attention to this body. This is something which I should be saying under the guidance of a physician. So the spiritual master, when he tells you that right now this ambition is not good, or right now you need to be ambitious. It happened a few times. The Juhu project, Srila Giriraj Maharaj brought out this whole new book about the full struggle. People were thinking that why are we attached to this rat-ridden, mosquito-laden, and all the politicians are against us? Why is Prabhupada attached? In fact, some of them told Prabhupada, let us give it up. Some went to the conclusion that Prabhupada made a mistake. And now he wants to rationalize it by saying that, no, all of you may leave, but I will not leave. So Krishna consciousness always has this kind of a dialectic between what the purports are saying and what your life is at that particular moment. The grand arena of King Drupad, his stunningly beautiful daughter Draupadi, for the first time she's standing there with a garland in her hand, and Swayamvara, she's going to choose her own husband, but there's a condition: somebody has to pierce the eye of the wooden fish by looking at the reflection below. So certainly it is a Kshatriya marriage. Kshatriyas were the main contestants. So the whole arena was filled, say 3/4 or 4/5 with all the great Kshatriyas. But Brahmanas, Vaishyas and Shudras and others, they also like to see how the Kshatriyas win their princesses. So they also were allowed. But that was a section which obviously it was meant that nobody will come as a contestant from that. When all the great Kshatriya princes failed, here is Krishna giving Arjuna a signal with his eye that go. And he said, no, we are dressed as Brahmanas here and it's very embarrassing. And he said, no, go. Arjuna is thinking, it would be a scandal if I go and win her. I don't even know even if I win her. So he just, upon goaded by Krishna, see, they are very thick friends. That's why Krishna spoke the Gita to Arjuna. So Arjuna says, all right, I'll go. And there is a huge uproar. People are hurling insults at King Drupad. How dare you insult us? You're allowing a Brahmana here? I mean, does he know even how to string a bow? Has he ever practiced? So Drupad and his son Drishtadyumna, they are saying, well, you all tried, isn't it? We gave you a fair chance. So it's not like keeping all of you aside, we are allowing a Brahmana to contest. The contest is still open. Whoever wants to come can try. But nobody was willing to try because they saw how the big archers, they failed. So Arjuna goes there. By this time, Arjuna has not even looked at Draupadi, whether she is so beautiful. Is it worth to do something? So this is the real mystery. We are the Arjunas. Right now, we are not, okay, we may be competitors in this world, but internally we are understanding that becoming Krishna's servant is the goal of my life. How do we deal with the Draupadis which may come in our lives? So what is the Draupadi for you and me? A new job, a new place for employment, a husband, a wife, or a family situation, or money, or status, or like 2 days ago, I met one devotee. He chants his 16 rounds every day. He's not yet initiated, but he's chanting since his college days. He came for his MBBS, for his doctor's degree, medical degree in Mumbai. And then suddenly he found that maybe I should go for the Indian Civil Service, IAS. And I was told that 1.2 million candidates appear for the exam, and the first 600 or 700 are picked up for service. Can you imagine that this is the kind of competition? And then the top 100 or 125, they go to IAS, others go to Indian Railway Service, Indian Revenue Service, Indian Foreign Service, whatever. So of the 100, 18 were selected for Maharashtra, which is one of the richest states of India. And of the 18, he was one. And during COVID times, he did something so spectacular. He said, all I did was use my common sense, but he did something so great that patients from Gujarat, which is a faraway state, from Kerala, they came to his particular area because the hospital management, the ICU management, the oxygen management was like top class. And he chants his rounds daily, doesn't hide the fact that he's a devotee. So we were discussing how we can kind of make his way through this murky waters of Indian politics. Now, politics everywhere is murky, but Indian politics has its own special flavor. So now, was this wrong of trying to have his ambition and actually succeeding in that? Imagine the kind of impact he's having on people's lives just by his character, just by his behavior. So we are like Arjunas. Our Draupadis are in the form of material acquisitions. Sometimes we may not be willing to go ahead, but we need guidance from Krishna directly, as Arjuna had, or through our spiritual guides, counselors, friends, whatever. And then when Arjuna hits the fish's eye, that's the time he sees that, oh, Draupadi is so beautiful. So it is not that the attraction motivates someone. It is not like the acquisition of something will help me progress on the path of Krishna consciousness. Last point, Sudama had a identity that I'm not attached to wealth. I'm not attached to wealth. That became a sort of a pride that I am proud that I am poverty stricken. So Jiva Goswami explains that Krishna wanted to just sort out that little grains, mustard seed size grain of this identity that, I like to be poor. And Krishna says, okay, now I want to become rich. I said, no, I don't want to become rich. No, you have to. So sometimes we may say that I want to become rich, and Krishna may allow you to become poor. Now that's not a curse. That's not Krishna's neglect. That is something which may be necessary. And as Prabhupada told his disciples while leaving this world, Krishna tested me from 1955 to 1965 by taking away everything from me. And then Krishna tested me from 65 to 77 by giving everything to me. I am fortunate that I passed both these exams. Hare Krishna. So now the forum is open for any feedback, comments, questions, corrections, if any.
Hare Krishna, Shyamananda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Paul.
So wonderful to see you again. And as always, just the way you elucidate these fine points and with the examples of Prabhupada's pastimes is just, it really brings everything to light and just makes it so understandable. I actually sat down tonight, not sure if I was going to be able to pay attention the entire time because I have so much work to do.
Oh.
And when you started talking, I said, I need to pay attention and not do my work now. And I think it's incredible that when we aren't sure or when we need to hear what we're doing is either too much or is right, Krishna provides that. And everything you spoke about today just really hit home with me about being too ambitious or trying to make too much material things and neglecting the spiritual side of life. So I really appreciate that. And there was also something, I forget now exactly what you said, but you were saying how the things that Krishna reveals himself to us as we need it in the moment that we are at. And that reminded me of something Chaitanya Charan said in an interview with Deva Madhava on the GBC SPT podcast.
Mm-hmm.
He said he wrote something, Krishna's grace at our pace, I think, something like that. I have to find the quote, but it just, everything kind of coalesced this evening into a lot of things that have been going on today. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The quote is, at your pace, access Krishna's grace.
I knew you would
Okay.
know it. Yes, that's it. I knew you would know it, Gorka.
Haribol, thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Jitendra.
Prabhuji, I mean, it was a wonderful session and clarified many points. I did have a few questions. Maybe I'll start with the first one. So I have had this, like you mentioned, right, when like devotees, when they go abroad for studies, and then I have myself experienced this. The day I was supposed to leave for the US, one devotee in temple, he's sitting with me and preaching to me, what are you doing? You're wasting your time by going there. You should, tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param, so he was, trying to preach to me on the day when I was supposed to come to the US, not to come to the US. So of course I didn't have much philosophical, and I didn't want to argue. Anyway, I came anyway. But the thing is, so is it the understanding that I need this, whatever higher studies, this material accomplishment at my stage of spiritual advancement, but ultimately it is supposed to be given up? Like there is this argument that comes, okay, yeah, you can interpret this verse the way you want. You can interpret it to fit your own situation right now, but then ultimately, you need to give it up. So is it so? Essentially, what I'm trying to ask is perfection in giving up and taking shelter of Krishna, or is perfection in taking shelter of Krishna even when you have these things? So I mean, is it like I'll be able to take more shelter of Krishna when I don't have these things? I have to give it up. Is it a prerequisite in that sense? Yeah, something like that. So
very, very important point. And I think this has plagued maybe hundreds of individuals, at least in India. Every region will have its own unique situation. Somebody in North America may aim for a stable family situation, that I'm not able to understand how in Krishna consciousness I can have a stable family. And for you in India, stability in family could be like a given, that, oh, your parents never divorced, or your grandparents never divorced. You may say, no, it is not that prevalent. So now I'm not saying that one malady or one disease is better than the other. Like, pick your choice, arthritis or migraine. You may say, hell, I don't want any of them. It's not like arthritis is better or migraine is better. But the fact is that we do have this kind of a situation. So let us brush up our fundamentals, that we are individuals. Krishna is an individual. If Krishna would have shown his universal form in the second verse of the Bhagavad Gita, Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre, Dhritarashtra is inquiring, and Krishna says, Arjun, let me save your time. Okay, bam, this is it. I've killed everybody, become my devotee, do your duty, business finished. It would contradict with one fundamental concept of existence. What is that? The Lord is an individual, I am an individual. He doesn't say he has created me. The Vedanta Sutras thing is very, very subtle and very sweet one. Ekaha bahu syamaha. I am one and I have become many. So he says, become many. I didn't make these individuals. I didn't. So Prabhupada gives us an example that if a person has a family, why does he want a family? Why do you want a family? Well, I want to love them and I want to reciprocate their loving feelings. I want them to love me back. So if this is the existential position of Krishna versus the living entity, then there is free will. There is a chance for somebody going this way or that way. There is some chance for correction. We are speaking from the material point of view. So Arjuna gives solid, rock solid arguments why you should not fight. And Krishna's arguments in return are only at a friendly level. Who stops the friendly dialogue? Not Krishna, but Arjun. Oh my Lord, friendship over. Shishyaste aham. Now no more friendship. I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. When you give Krishna that written document that now I am a soul surrendered unto you, then Krishna talks like a spiritual master. Till that time, no spiritual master talks. It's only friendly talks. But it is Arjuna who decided that this friendly thing is not taking me anywhere. It is like a swamp. I'm just mired deeper and deeper and deeper. So the second chapter leads 9 chapters away to the 11th, where Krishna shows him a glimpse of what's going to happen. So after that, it leads to other discussions. And then finally, Krishna says, do whatever you want. Yathe-chasi tatha kuru. So this is very much in line with the core, like root level software of bhakti, that I am Jitendra, I stay in Pune, I think going to America is a good idea. Now, is it wrong? Is it unethical? Is it immoral? So you have somebody who says that, okay, what's your desire? What's your heart's desire? Well, this job could do this for me, and then I have this thing. Fine. This is not unethical, not immoral. It may open up something which you never expected while you are living in India. You may say, all right, I'll pay the price. Once you say, I'll pay the price, now Krishna, your prarabdha karma and your own kind of will, now all these forces are let loose. So you come here, you get a good job or a bad job or whatever. Now there are people who, not devotees, I'm not speaking of devotees only. There was this Odia guy, Sam Pitroda. He came to America, became a big shot somewhere, and then he felt some stirring in his heart, and he came to start a big department of telematics, CDOT or something like it was called, during Rajiv Gandhi's prime ministerial tenure. And he was asked, why you come back? You could have a much bigger career, more money. He said, no, the calling of this particular thing was much more than, I don't need money right now. I don't need any name or fame right now. I need some creative scope. So today what you are, tomorrow you could be different. Now you may say, oh, I wish I would have stayed back in India. I would have chanted more rounds or whatever. Please don't do that. It is better to take some action, do something and pay the price for it. You see? So later, if you give up something and somebody said, that's what I told you 22 years ago, you could have given up at that time. You see, you don't understand. That time I was a different individual. Right now, I am a different individual. When I came to fulfill my ambition, I knew I was on the right track. And now at age 48, I'm giving it up. I still feel I'm on the right track. So Krishna consciousness does not, I strongly feel that it is better that your free will was allowed a free expression rather than somebody thinking for you. Krishna Bhakti enabled you to think for yourself. And it's now up to you to say that I don't need a bigger job. I don't need this. And it happens in the life of so many people that after some point of time, they say, no, money is not the main thing now. I know one motivational speaker who made it very big. He became a millionaire. And he said, I don't need the money. I take it. I take the money, but I don't need it. My creative expression would not be fulfilled in this particular area. Therefore, I came here. So always have a right-hand side, left-hand side balance sheet as to what did I gain by coming somewhere, what I might have lost. And anytime when you feel that, no, the gains are always better or more than what I had sacrificed, you'll be happy to do that. These are some thoughts on what you said, that somebody trying to tell me not to do something. It was Rabindra Swarup Prabhu, who was a PhD candidate. He joined the ashram and then he wrote to Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, what should I do? Prabhupada said, continue your studies and finish your PhD. Then he asked the brahmacharis there, they say, you don't understand. Prabhupada always wants PhD candidates to give up PhD because it's all Maya. But he said, here is a letter from Prabhupada saying that you continue. He said, no, in his heart, Prabhupada wants you to give up.
Exactly, something like that. Something like that is what.
But because you are attached, therefore Prabhupada wrote this letter.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, it was more of the devotees having their disdain for higher education that was speaking, rather than their loyalty to Krishna conscious concepts. Those who were advising him were all dropouts. They were not knowing the importance of something. So this is how sometimes we may even think for the Acharya on behalf of him. Then there is no need for doing that.
Thank you, Prabhu. This beautifully addresses not just Jitendra Prabhu's dilemma, but maybe for so many of us. Thank you, Jitendra Prabhu, for the question.
Prabhu, I am 3 minutes over time.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for your time, Shyamananda Prabhu. Yeah. Do you have 5 more minutes, Prabhu? Anybody has?
I have.
Okay. So anyone else? It's a wonderful opportunity. It's a wonderful topic. Anybody has any questions? Please.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Shyamananda Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams.
Krishna Prabhu, how are you?
I'm doing well, Prabhu, doing very well. You know, this was a fantastic class. I have to hear the answer that you gave to Jitendra Prabhu again and again, because even I had the same question, but I couldn't articulate it as well as he did. It was a great question. But now I have a question for you, Prabhu. This is more related to the example about the IAS officer that you gave.
Okay.
And once in a while, you know, we may be in a job where the values that are expected in the job don't align with the values of Krishna consciousness. Where, you know, for example, you know, maybe I work in, you know, maybe I'm a researcher and I work in something and I'm making arms and ammunitions that are going to be used to kill people. You know, I'm just making an extreme example.
Yes,
but
yes.
But in my case, it's pretty simple. But sometimes the values don't align, and either the you know, in the bigger picture, the values may align. For example, my company is out to help people, but the situation in the job where I'm at requires people to lie and exaggerate freely. You know, because if you don't lie and exaggerate, you know, you don't progress. And so though you know, I understand you know, I love the other pieces, but this was the question that I had as to how do devotees deal with these situations, Prabhu?
Okay. Assuming a very, I would say, like a bottom-top approach, like this is real grassroots level explanation. If your company is manufacturing kitchen knives, and kitchen knives are used in 60% of domestic murders. Please understand, your company is making very sharp knives, one of the sharpest in the world, and 60% of domestic murders, they use kitchen knives. Should you stop manufacturing kitchen knives? The understanding is your company is not making murder weapons. The products are used for something which they were not intended to. So this is a very important understanding. If your company is manufacturing whiskey, you may say, "Nay, whiskey also is used for rubbing off old paint, or it is used to clear fuel tanks in vehicles, or it is used to remove snow from the road." You say, no. This product is only utilized for making people intoxicated. So this is the fundamental point of understanding. I am working for someone. What is the main intended use of that product? A kitchen knife is used to cut vegetables, but whiskey is basically meant for intoxication. Like we have industrialists here in India, some of the staunchest supporters of Radha Gopinath temple, and they make chemicals, rubber chemicals or specialty chemicals, specialty oils, transformer oils. Your company could be making software. Logistical software is one of the highest paid jobs. Like when I go to Detroit, there is a place called Grand Rapids, and there's only one big employer there, Meyer Industries, and they are huge into warehouse management. And so our devotees, 30-40 Indian devotees, are only working how to make the logistical software, how to make the whole thing running. But what do they ship from one warehouse to another? Mostly flesh products, meat, fish, eggs, alcohol. So by the law of karma, no doubt, those who transport something are also guilty. So that little bit of thing will always be there. And then we take shelter of Krishna, who says that, my dear Arjuna, in this material world, there is no fire without a smoke. You cannot have pure fire, a blue flame of material activity without any smoke. So I always tell Grihasthas that you man up, in the sense you become like Arjuna and pay the price. And we, brahmacharis who are sitting in the temple and chanting Hare Krishna, depending upon your donations, we also share the karma. It's not like we say that, okay, all the bad things are yours, but give me $100 for my airline ticket. So if you say my company is making weapons and you have a choice of 2 or 3 employers, perhaps sometimes you may not have the choice. I'm also agreeable to this proposition. But if you have a choice, then you change over. For example, our Radha Gopinath Prabhu met one boy, and he says, I am an account assistant in one bookie. Bookie is the Indian term for somebody who works at the gambling horse racing office. And he's just an assistant. So he says, should I change my job? He says, not now. Right now, you come up to some decent level of sadhana. So within 6 or 8 months, he started chanting 3 rounds, 4 rounds, came up to 16. And one day said, I was intensely praying to Krishna to help me out of this situation, that this whole thing is gambling. So I can't say that there is a small corner of some ethics or morality here. The entire office is running on people betting on horses. And I found another job where I am in a grains godown. So just see, rather than maintaining the names of horses which I've won and which I've lost, he's now maintaining a ledger for wheat and jowar and bajra and grains and rice and like that. The pen has not changed, the paper has not changed, just the names have been changed of what he was accounting for. So Krishna does this with his devotees, provided the devotees are feeling that, oh, I'm in a very bad situation. Like if somebody is working in an abortion clinic, there is no second use for that clinic, isn't it? It's only meant for a particular thing. But if you don't have another opening, please do not give up even that situation. Because we are all, in one sense, we are all sinners. We are all coming from a previous baggage of huge karma. So rather than dwelling on the negative, dwell on the positive, increase your remembrance of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, purify your existence by eating pure food. Now you may say, but the food which I'm eating comes from this kind of a salary. Don't worry about it right now. Continue building up the positive And Krishna, surely that's his promise. Buddhi yogam dadami. I give my devotees intelligence how they can come to me in another way if one way is blocked. So, Krishna Prabhu, these are some basic thoughts on what you asked.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, yes. Thank you, Prabhu.
Mataji, you have a question?
Hare Krishna, Shyamananda Prabhu, Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
I've been eagerly waiting for my next turn for a Q&A with the monk. I have a running list and checking with Garkumar Prabhu. He tells me there are others on the list, so I'll patiently wait. I apologize. I've been a little tired, so my mind is not working as quickly as I'd like. But one, I love your session so much. I learned so much, and you give such great examples. And I think for example, even your last answer was just so perfect. And I can just even thinking about other people in certain situations, it just connects very much so, and it makes a lot of sense. And in those situations, you also know what to tell them if they were to seek help. I guess it's just interesting. This was part of just a thought that I had that isn't quite fully formulated. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit because my thoughts are a little jumbled, but it relates a little bit to how I think it was the Mayavadis, how in one sense that you still have to be careful, even though they might be speaking transcendence and any spiritual advancement is good, one must still be careful of who you hear from, because I think Prabhupada said still ultimately poison. Even if you say, take what you need and leave the rest. And it just made me think about the first purport of how, the four things, and you hear certain Maharajas say, for example, enjoyment is not bad, it just can't be the goal. And of course, when I first came to Krishna consciousness, I was very fanatical, and I was like, that's not right. You're not supposed to enjoy anything in this material world. This is my, of course, ignorance. I'm like, there's a Swami for everyone, and devotees who want to enjoy this life will find this, but of course I can see that now. Of course, it's not, that balance. But I'll just share that I'm in a program now, actually separate from Krishna consciousness, and it's supposed to help. I have my own business and I'm pivoting and such, but it's very interesting because I guess, and it wasn't so clear, because it's a materialist program, and it's supposed to help people kind of like, reach their goals, live their lives, but their goals are making those four things like the goal of life. And you can say very much so, take what you need and leave the rest. But it's interesting because as I process it, when I relate it to the Mayavadis, it's going, wait, should I not actually even hear from them? Even though some of the things they say have a place, we exist on so many dimensions. And of course, it's not the highest truth, and it's not even like spiritual, but it can help you navigate directions and how you navigate this material life. But ultimately, they are people who believe that, this whole world is about enjoyment. Those four things are like the goal of life. And so I'm having a little bit of an aversion coming off of a very tough week. And I'm all like, no to them. But I guess, sorry, my mind is just jumbled. And it's almost like a comment and question where in my mind, I've said it's been helpful because even though we exist on so many dimensions, so it's been helpful in this aspect, but I guess I should still be very careful because who you associate with and who you hear from can affect you. And that I was just tying that to, I'm sorry, I remember there was this, it's like the Mayavadis, they are spiritual. They are spiritual, and they believe like, at least, it's something's better than nothing. but ultimately, I think even with devotees that it could ultimately be poison, so you should still not hear from them. So I don't know if that's anything, just a comment or question of just, I'm sorry, I threw a lot, but that's just kind of my thought. I'm like, as you said, I don't know if you want to comment. So sorry, Garpar called on you and I didn't have this all completely formulated, but
I do. I love your insights. I love how you think so much. We do need people like you, so don't worry about that. You had a tough business week, so don't worry. Maybe we will have our own private sessions and I will have all the time for listening to your thoughts. Just to give you a small comment, what is the difference between listening to someone, and as Prabhupada gave it a very grand bombastic sound of, not bombastic exactly, but a very high sounding description, submissive oral reception. God, the first time I listened to those three words, I was thinking, this is it. I'm not hearing a Bhagavatam class. I'm giving submissive oral reception. So submissive is the mindset, the heart. Oral is the physical part, the ear. And reception means like any reception. There is somebody waiting for you to come. They say, this is my card. Which seat should I sit? Oh, madam, this is your seat. And please go. Would you like a drink? Would you like to use the washroom? Would you like to do that? So there is a whole thing which is an organization which is meant for serving you. So oral reception is that kind of a thing. For example, you're walking on the streets of Manhattan. One day it happened. I was taking books along with Alex Prabhu to Washington Square Park. And there was a lady outside a restaurant with small glasses filled with drink. I don't know what it was, mostly mixture of cocktail or something. And very sweetly she said, we are just giving it, like, restaurants, they always give a small sampler. So I said, oh, she's so nice to me and she's smiling and she's offering me something. How can I refuse? Hell no, what she's giving is something which is exactly opposite of what you want to be in life. So you see a billboard, 20% off on some festival hamper which has meat and whiskey and whatever in it, or even a harmless kind of thing, 30% off the jewelry. You say, oh, this shop is offering, so I have to go and buy something. No, it is just their way of increasing their customer base. So similarly, when you come across a forum or a book or hearing somebody and they make a statement which you may say, well, it makes a little bit of sense, but ultimately the whole end game of this organization or this speaker or this particular spiritual teacher is that we become one with Krishna, we one with God or whatever. That is not hearing. That is not listening to them. Just because that sound vibration has entered your ears, that doesn't mean you are listening to it, because there is no humility in your heart. There is no reception table set up for them. In this age, we will be bombarded with this kind of millions of such messages. So please don't be under this impression that, oh, this particular sound entered my ear and now I have to act on it. The acting part is the reception. So when we have these morning prayers, one of our greatest of the acharyas, Narottam Das Thakur, has said, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, Chittete Koriya Aikya. Guru Mukha Padma, the lotus mouth of the spiritual master, and whatever emanates from that, I need to hear that with Chittete Koriya Aikya, with my heart, my mind, my intellect, all fused into one. It's like when Prabhupada says, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, it's like 3-4 trumpeters are trumpeting, and then the king makes his grand entrance. So that's how everybody's alert. Like a leader or a president, when he says, okay, now the president is going to address the nation. Can somebody say, wait a minute, I have to say something? No. Now everybody is all ears. So that's how a disciple is for hearing the spiritual master's sound vibration with full attention. We are not giving that kind of a treatment to anybody else in this world. However hard they may try, we may allow it through one ear hole and we remove the valve of the next ear hole and it just passes on. There is no lingering inside. There is no treatment given to them. And because we know that in this age, these kind of things will always be happening. So we don't make a big issue out of that. If, as you say, oh, I got a 10-ton garbage truck and there was one small silver ring inside. Well, if it is your job to sift through all of that, go ahead. But otherwise, you may say, for one tiny bit of a silver ring, should I be going through all these 10 tons of garbage? No, I don't need to. I can get that ring, or I may even do without it. Like a simple truth that this world is not so bad, or this world is created by nature and nature is not so bad. You mean to say for this particular thing, you want to read a particular Mayavadi book? This is like a loose change concept you may find in any Prabhupada's book. And because they say it, we tip our hat to them saying that, yes, they are right. We need to conserve this world. They are right. We need to allow our mind sometimes this or sometimes to discipline our mind. But if they're merely repeating what is said by Vyasdev, we give them the credit that for this particular point, they are right. We don't deny that. We are not misers. We are not saying that whatever they say and whoever they are, they're all bad. No, this kind of binary thinking sometimes may harm us more than help us. Right? But if for a smaller kind of a understanding of what this world is, we don't need to depend on them. If your friend or somebody says that, look, that day you told me about this particular point, and this particular teacher also makes that point, you may say, oh, good, wonderful. Last point is, sometimes we are not even worried about what the beginning or the basic points are. We look at the aim. What is the target? If the target is anything less than pure devotional service, eternally, I am eternal, my Lord is eternal, and my link, my relationship with him is through pure service, that also I promise to do eternally, you are safe. If any teaching changes the software code for even one of the three, that later you may join him, you can become one. No. Later you may give up this bond of service. No. Later Krishna comes down to your level and you all amalgamate. No. We want all three to be eternally distinct and the sweetness has to be kept intact. That's our target. Whoever helps me with that is a friend. Whoever not, I say, not as an enemy, but I stay a bit aloof from them. Something like that.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. I appreciate your comments and thoughts so much. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
We shall have our session. We have our Janmashtami programs coming up a bit. So things are a little bit tied up. But I think as soon as maybe first week of September, we may have just Radhashtami as the main festival. But otherwise, Gokuma Prabhu and I would be very, very eager to have another session with you.
Thank you so much. I just want to know, I've been keeping the last time we gave Bhagavatam class at Bhakti Center, I had a really brainy question, but I
okay.
didn't ask it on that forum. So I'm like, I need to ask Garg Prabhu when Shyamananda when I'm up next. So thank you so much. And looking forward to hearing you also during our new Vrindavan Ratha Yatra. I'm excited to go this year. So Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Haribol.
So I think it's late. Gorkuma
Yes,
Prabhu,
yes,
we'll
Prabhu.
call it a day.
Yes,
And
definitely.
if anybody has any questions which are leftovers, we can have maybe a question and answer session only.
Sure.
I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah.
So thank you all for coming on board. Hare Krishna, Dandot Pranam, Vancha Kalpatarupischa, Kripa Sindhuvevicha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Shyamananda.
Shri Shyamananda.
Thank you, Prabhu.